I picked up both boys. Got it, I said, and we left. That night, I logged into the shared Dropbox where I'd been uploading family photos for 9 years, 11,000 photos, tagged, sorted, backed up, the whole history of our family in neat folders. I clicked delete all. At 7:04 a.m., my sister texted, "What did you do?" I replied, "But I'm getting ahead of myself." Because this wasn't one ugly sentence in a studio. This was a pattern with good lighting. When you grow up in a family like mine, you learn early that be flexible means be invisible. My mother calls it keeping the peace. My sister calls it not making everything about you. I used to call it normal. The first time I remember it clearly, I was 7 and my sister Alana was 10. It was her birthday party. Balloons taped to every surface. A sheet cake with a cartoon character. A rented pony in the backyard because mom loved a theme. I stood on the porch holding a plastic camera dad had gotten me from a yard sale. It barely worked. I was obsessed with it anyway. Mom came out, saw me, and said, "Christopher, go inside. You'll ruin the pictures." I blinked. "I'm not in the way." You know," she said, scanning my face like she might find a smudge, "you're sweaty. Go clean up." I wasn't sweaty. I was 7. Alana ran past me in a sparkly dress, yelling, "Mom, tell him to move." Mom didn't even look at me. "Chris, please don't start." That phrase followed me like a shadow. Don't start now. Don't do anything wrong. Just don't start. Later, when the cake came out, I was put behind the pony handler in every photo. My head chopped off, my presence reduced to an elbow and a blur. Mom printed the pictures anyway. She framed one for the living room. It was Alana smiling, perfect teeth, perfect dress, perfect pony. In the corner, you could see my hand. Just my hand. Like proof I'd been there, but not worth including. In high school, I got a scholarship offer from a state school's computer science program. Not full ride, but enough that I'd been floating for a week, like maybe my life was finally going to be mine. I brought the letter to the kitchen table. Mom was making iced tea. Alana was home from college, scrolling on her phone, already practiced at ignoring me. "Mom," I said, holding up the envelope, "I got it." She looked at it like it was a utility bill. "What is that?" "My scholarship." Alana's head snapped up. "To where?" I told her. Mom pursed her lips. "Well, that's nice. But Alana needs help with her apartment deposit this semester." Alana didn't even pretend to protest. She just watched me with this calm certainty, like the universe had already been arranged in her favor. "But this is for school," I said. "It helps us, Mom waved her hand. "Don't be dramatic. You'll figure it out. You're good with computers." That's when I learned another rule: my successes were always framed as convenient traits, not things that deserve support. I wasn't smart. I was good with computers, like a household appliance. When Dad tried to say something, Mom cut him off. "Let's not argue. Christopher can work. It builds character." So I worked. I stocked shelves at night, wrote code during lunch breaks, taught myself things nobody in my house understood. And I learned early that I could survive without their applause. But a part of me still wanted it. A part of me kept showing up anyway. Adulthood didn't fix anything. It just gave my family better ways to use me. When Alana had her first baby, Mom announced she wanted professional photos, not just for the baby, but for the family brand, as Alana joked, like it was hilarious. I was 27 then, newly hired at a software company, finally making enough that I wasn't always bracing for disaster. Mom called me. "Christopher," she said in that tone that meant she'd already decided, "we need a Dropbox." "We need what?" "Alana wants everyone to be able to access photos," Mom said, as if she were explaining electricity. "You're the tech one. Set it up." I set it up. I made folders for each year, subfolders for holidays, birthdays, weddings. I paid for extra storage because Mom didn't want to delete anything. "That's memories," she'd say, offended as if deleting a blurry photo of a casserole was a moral failure. For 9 years, I was the invisible archivist of our family. I took pictures at every gathering because nobody else wanted to be bothered. If I stepped into a shot, Mom would say, "Chris, can you take one of just us?" Just us never included me, or it included me the way a chair includes a floor, necessary support, not part of the point. I told myself it didn't matter. I had my own life. I married Erin. We had twins, Ben and Oliver. 2 bright, chaotic, funny little boys who made my world feel loud in a good way. I thought becoming a father would change how my family saw me because my kids were undeniable, they were real, they were joy with faces. But my mother looked at them like they were an inconvenience she'd have to frame carefully. The year the twins turned 5, my sister announced she wanted a proper family portrait. "We haven't had a professional one since my wedding," Alana said in the family group chat. "Mom deserves it." Mom replied with a dozen heart emojis. Dad sent a thumbs up. I stared at my phone, watching the familiar choreography begin. Then Alana tagged me, "Chris, you still have the Dropbox, right? Make sure the photographer can upload directly." I typed, "Sure." Not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know how to stop being the person who made things smooth for them. Erin watched me from the couch. "You don't have to." "I know," I said. But I could hear my mother's voice like a reflex, "Don't start." The portrait was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon at a studio downtown. We drove in the morning because Mom insisted on brunch first so everyone's in a good mood. That should have warned me. Brunch at a place with white tablecloths and a wait list. Mom in her pearl earrings. Alana in a beige sweater that looked like it came with a sponsorship. Her 4 kids were dressed like a catalog, khaki, cream, soft smiles trained into place. My twins wore navy sweaters and little gray pants Erin had picked out with care. Ben spilled water on his sleeve before we even ordered. Oliver asked the waiter if the sugar packets were tiny pillows. The waiter laughed. "Mom didn't. Can you keep them calm?" She murmured to me, like my children were dogs. They're 5, Erin said, polite but sharp. Mom ignored her and leaned toward Alana. Your kids always knew how to behave. Alana smirked, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Some people have standards. Erin's hand found my knee under the table. I took a breath. Don't start. Be flexible. Be invisible. Update 2. Your kids aren't in the family portrait, the photographer said, confused. I looked at Mom, she whispered, we wanted a clean photo. My sister's 4 kids were front and center. I picked up my twins. Got it. We left. That night, I logged into the shared Dropbox where I'd been uploading family photos for 9 years, 11,000 photos, and clicked delete all. At 7:04 a.m., my sister texted, what did you do? I replied. At the studio, everything smelled like hairspray and effort. The photographer, a man named Scott with kind eyes, greeted us and checked names off a list. Okay, he said, clapping his hands, we'll do a few combinations, grandparents, whole family, siblings, kids. We'll get a lot. Alana stepped forward immediately. Perfect. My kids are ready. Mom hovered beside her like a manager. Scott looked around. And Christopher's kids? I felt Ben's fingers tighten around mine. Oliver leaned into my leg. Mom's smile didn't move. We're doing a clean photo first, she said lightly, like she was ordering a salad dressing. Scott blinked. Clean? Alana laughed. You know, just simple, classic. Scott looked at me again, confused. So not including your twins? I waited for Mom to correct him, to say, of course they'll be in it, to laugh and say, oh no, we're doing all the kids. Instead, she turned to me and lowered her voice. That's when she whispered it, we wanted a clean photo. It landed in my chest like something cold. Not just because it was cruel, but because it was casual, because she said it like it had always been true, like my kids were clutter, like my kids were a stain. Alana's children were already being arranged. Her oldest, Mia, stood beside Mom, chin lifted like she'd practiced being important. Her twins, yes, Alana had twins, 2, older than mine by 3 years, posed in front with matching smiles. Her youngest clung to her leg, and Mom scooped him up with a coo that made my stomach twist. Ben tugged my sleeve. Daddy. Oliver looked at the lights, blinking hard. Are we in the picture? I looked at Erin. Her face had gone very still, not angry in a loud way, angry in a way that meant something permanent was about to shift. Mom, I said quietly, what did you just say? Mom's eyes flicked towards Scott, then back to me, irritation creeping in. Christopher, don't make this a thing. It's already a thing, Erin said. Alana sighed dramatically. Can we not? This is for Mom. Scott cleared his throat, uncomfortable. We can do multiple setups. It's really not a problem to include them. Mom cut him off. We're paying for a certain look. I swallowed. I could feel my pulse in my throat. I could feel Ben's little hand sweating in mine. I could feel Oliver's gaze searching my face, trying to understand why Grandma wasn't smiling at him. And suddenly, I saw it, the hand in the corner of the pony photo, the scholarship letter on the table, the Dropbox folders filled with everyone else's memories. A lifetime of being cropped out. Erin whispered, Chris. Not telling me what to do, just reminding me I wasn't alone. I bent down and scooped up both boys, one on each hip. They wrapped their arms around my neck automatically, trusting me the way kids do. I looked at Mom. She stared back, waiting for me to fold, to be flexible, to be invisible. I nodded once. Got it, I said, and I walked out. Behind me, I heard Alana's voice, sharp and panicked. Are you serious right now? Mom called after me, Christopher, don't embarrass us. Embarrass us. Not hurt my grandchildren, not I'm sorry. Just us. Erin followed without hesitation, grabbing our garment bag and the small envelope of checks I brought because Alana had said the studio might need a deposit adjustment. Outside, the winter air hit my face like a slap. Ben started crying first, silent tears on my shoulder. Oliver tried to be brave and failed in a small, heartbreaking way. Grandma doesn't like our sweaters. Erin touched his cheek. No, honey. Grandma made a bad choice. I opened the car door and buckled them in with hands that didn't quite feel like mine. When we pulled away, I looked in the rearview mirror. Ben's eyes were red. Oliver stared out the window, jaw clenched like he was copying what he'd seen adults do. I thought of all the photos I'd taken of them, birthdays, first day of preschool, Christmas mornings. I thought of how many of those photos were sitting in a folder labeled family, accessible to people who could look at their faces and call them unclean. Erin's voice was quiet beside me. What are you thinking? I kept my eyes on the road. I'm thinking I'm done being the person who makes it easy for them. That evening, after we put the twins to bed, Erin poured me a glass of water because she knows I forget basic needs when my brain goes into code mode. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. The Dropbox icon was right there, like it always was, 9 years of habit, 9 years of quiet labor. Erin stood behind me, arms crossed, watching my face. Are you sure? She asked, not doubting me, just checking if I knew the weight of what I was about to do. I clicked into the shared folder. 2017, Alana's baby shower. 2018, Thanksgiving at Mom's. 2019, Dad's retirement party. 2020, awkward Zoom screenshots. 2021, Alana's vacation photos I'd never been invited on. 2022, my twins' birthday, mostly pictures I'd uploaded because I still wanted them included. 2023, Mom's garden, Dad holding a burger, Alana laughing. 2024 Christmas, my boys holding gifts, Mom smiling at Alana's kids. 2025, everything. 11,000 photos. A family history built by someone they treated like a storage device. I opened the admin panel, because of course I was the admin, because of course the account was under my email, because of course I was the one paying the yearly subscription, charged automatically to a card Mom never asked about and Alana never noticed. The screen asked me if I was sure. Delete 11,000 items. This action cannot be undone. I thought of Mom's whisper, clean. I pictured my boys' faces when they realized they weren't wanted in the frame. I pictured Alana's kids front and center, confident and safe because they'd been assigned value by default. I pictured Erin's stillness in the studio, the way she'd watched me decide what kind of father I was going to be. I clicked delete all. A progress bar appeared, blue sliding across white, erasing, not revenge, a boundary. When it finished, the folder was empty. 9 years of family reduced to nothing. I closed my laptop and sat back, breathing hard. Erin exhaled slowly. Okay, that was all she said. Okay, like she understood exactly what it was, not a tantrum, a line. At 7:04 a.m., my phone buzzed so violently on the nightstand, it woke me up. Alana, what did you do? Then another, call me right now. Then Mom, Christopher, this is unacceptable. Then Dad, a rare one, son, what's going on? Erin rolled over, eyes open immediately. It started. I sat up and stared at Alana's message. I imagined her waking up, opening Dropbox to pull photos for holiday cards or to post a family portrait day album, and seeing nothing, no evidence, no archive, no curated history, just emptiness. I typed my reply carefully, not emotional, not dramatic, clean. I removed access to photos you didn't respect. Final update. Your kids aren't in the family portrait, the photographer said, confused. I looked at Mom, she whispered, we wanted a clean photo. My sister's 4 kids were front and center. I picked up my twins. Got it. We left. That night, I logged into the shared Dropbox where I'd been uploading family photos for 9 years, 11,000 photos, and clicked delete all. At 7:04 a.m., my sister texted, what did you do? I replied. The typing bubble appeared instantly. You deleted everything. 9 years. My kids' photos. I stared at that sentence. My kids. She didn't say our family's photos. She didn't say your kids' photos, too. Just hers. As if the shared Dropbox was a service I provided for her life. Mom called. I let it ring. She called again. I let it ring. Erin sat beside me, silent support, her hand on my back. Alana texted again, this is psychotic. Mom is crying. I almost laughed at the predictability. Mom always cried when control slipped. It was her favorite weapon because it made everyone scramble to comfort her. I typed again, you told a photographer my children weren't in the family portrait because you wanted a clean photo. You don't get to keep access to pictures of them or anything I've maintained for years. Alana sent a voice note. I didn't play it. Mom texted, we did not say that. You misunderstood. Gaslighting before breakfast. Classic. Dad called this time. I answered. Hey, I said. His voice was tired. Chris, your mother says you deleted everything. I did, I said. A pause. Why? I kept my voice steady. Because yesterday, Mom told me my kids couldn't be in the family portrait. She called it clean. Dad sucked in a breath like the air hurt. She said that? He asked quietly. Yes. Another pause, longer. I didn't hear it, he said, and his voice cracked slightly, but I believe you. That sentence hit harder than I expected because it was the first time in my life my father had said he believed me without needing proof. I'm not trying to hurt you, I said. I'm trying to protect my kids. I know, Dad whispered. Then I heard Mom in the background, sharp and demanding. Who are you talking to? Dad sighed. Your mother wants you to call. I'm not calling, I said. Not today. Dad hesitated. Okay, just be careful. I have been careful my whole life, I said. And then I surprised myself by saying it out loud, and it never protected me. By noon, the group chat was a wildfire. Alana posted screenshots of the empty folder. Mom posted crying emojis like evidence. Cousins I barely talked to chimed in with what happened. And and that's so sad. The enabling crowd arrived right on schedule, people who hadn't asked me how I was in years suddenly cared about family unity. One aunt wrote, Christopher, your mother is heartbroken. I typed and erased 3 different replies. Then I wrote one sentence and hit send. My children were excluded for being unclean. I'm not debating boundaries with people who watch me be erased. Silence for a full minute. Then Alana exploded, you always do this. You always make drama. Always. Like I was the problem, not their behavior. Erin leaned over my shoulder and read it, then looked at me. You don't have to keep reading. I know, I said, but I wanted to see it clearly, the way they moved, the way they tried to rewrite it so I could stop questioning myself. Mom finally sent a message that wasn't emojis. If you don't restore those photos, don't bother coming to Christmas. There it was, the conditional love, the contract, access in exchange for obedience. I felt oddly calm. My fingers moved without shaking. We won't be there. Then, because I wanted it in writing, I added, from now on, if you want contact with Ben and Oliver, you will apologize directly for excluding them, and you will stop treating them like an inconvenience. Until then, do not call, do not text, and do not send other people to pressure us. I hit send. Then I blocked Mom. I blocked Alana, one by one. Not out of anger, out of clarity. Erin watched me, her eyes wet but steady. You okay? She asked. I swallowed. I think I'm finally choosing my kids over their comfort. She nodded. Good. The consequences didn't take long. That afternoon, Alana tried the back door. She emailed me from her work account. Subject line, urgent. The body was 3 sentences. Christopher, this is not about yesterday. Those photos are irreplaceable. Restore them and we can talk about feelings later. Mom is devastated. I stared at it and felt something harden, not hatred, resolution. I replied once, this isn't about feelings. This is about truth. You wanted a clean photo. You got one. No access. No archive. No curated history. If you want to rebuild anything, you start with accountability, not demands. Then I archived the email. I didn't argue. I didn't explain further. I didn't plead to be understood. I was done auditioning for basic respect. Dad came by 2 days later. He stood in my doorway with his hands shoved into his jacket pockets like he didn't know what to do with them. He looked older than I remembered. I didn't know it was that bad, he said. I wanted to say yes, you did, but I didn't. I just said, I'm not asking you to pick sides. He nodded slowly. Your mother thinks you'll cave. I held his gaze. I won't. He looked past me into the living room where Ben and Oliver were building a block tower, laughing, safe. His eyes softened. They're good boys, he said. They are, I agreed. Dad swallowed. I'm sorry, son. It wasn't a full reckoning, but it was something. And it confirmed what I'd known all along. My mother's version of family only worked if everyone agreed to let her decide who mattered. I wasn't agreeing anymore. A week later, the portrait proofs hit Facebook. Not from Mom. From Alana. A glossy, clean family photo, Mom and Dad in the center, Alana and her husband on either side, 4 kids arranged like a perfect advertisement. The caption read, family is everything. People commented hearts. They didn't ask where I was or where my kids were. Because invisibility is easy to accept when it doesn't cost you anything. Aaron saw it over my shoulder and whispered, that's disgusting. I stared at the photo and I felt something unexpected, relief. Because it proved the truth better than any argument could. They had wanted a clean picture, and now they had one, a family portrait without me, without my sons. A perfect frame and an empty archive behind it. I didn't comment. I didn't react. I closed the app. Then I opened my own photo library. Not the shared Dropbox. Mine. A folder labeled Ben plus Oliver. Thousands of pictures, messy ones, loud ones, real ones. I selected one from the studio parking lot, Ben's face blotchy from crying, Oliver's jaw set in stubborn little heartbreak, Aaron's hand on my shoulder. Not pretty, not clean, but honest. I saved it as my phone background. A reminder, my boundary isn't complicated. It just feels complicated to people who benefited from me having none. Here's what's true now. I don't upload family photos for them anymore. I don't manage their digital lives. I don't show up to events where my children are treated like optional accessories. If my mother wants to see her grandsons, she can do the one thing she's avoided her whole life, admit she was wrong. Not sorry you felt that way. Not you misunderstood. Wrong. Until then, there is no access. No curated memories. No clean photos. No version of my life where my children have to earn their place in the frame. I learned early that be flexible meant be invisible. I'm not flexible anymore. Last night I stood in my office and took the old framed family photo from my shelf, the one from years ago where I'm half in the shot, cropped at the shoulder because I was the one holding the camera remote. I turned it face down in the drawer. Then I walked into the twins' room and watched them sleep for a long minute, small chests rising and falling, soft hair stuck up in ridiculous angles, perfect in the only way that matters. And I thought, with a calm I've never felt before, I stopped volunteering for a role that only existed to shrink me.